first thing I do is check the pitch, see how it has fared over a year since the tuning. And I used to always check this with a tuning fork. The tuning fork can be affected by temperature, so at this point we use a program that actually is much more accurate to give you the initial pitch. So there's about 100 cents between each half step on a piano, and this one is probably a good 10 to 15 cents low, which is quite a bit for tuning for a concert or a recording. So the first thing I'll have to do is raise the pitch of the instrument to even out the tension, and then after we do that, then we go back and by ear fine tune it. So what I did just then is sample the whole piano so that the program can decide how much higher I need to pull each string, so that by the time I increase the tension over the whole course of the whole instrument, it will end up very close to the standard pitch that I want it to be. And then when we go back, I just have to do smaller adjustments, which don't affect each other as much. So that was the purpose of that. And it uses what's called an overpull, and that's the program that I use. One explanation I could give, I have to mute all but one string as I'm listening to it. And I match the first one to what the program is wanting me to tune it higher than I would normally by ear. And then, so after I do that, what's called a unison. So on a piano, there's more than one string for most of the scale of the instrument. There's single, double, and then most of the instrument has 3 strings for each note. So then take the mute out, and you can hear what I'm listening to are called beats or difference beats. So you tune the unison by listening to that. Tension, the pitch up. Doesn't sound very good. All right. Now, I'm sure Joss has not made you listen to that whole tuning, but now I've raised the tension, raised the pitch on the whole instrument using the program's overpull, which is calculated again how much higher I need to pull the string so that once it all settles, because there's 200 some strings on a piano, it'll be pretty close to pitch. So then the next thing I will do is check and see how we did. So we always tune to this A, which is the standard pitch of 440 cycles per second. The reason we use an A is that's what the orchestra tunes to. The oboe gives the A to the rest of the orchestra. And the oboe makes sure that the oboist is giving it at that pitch, at least in the United States, for most of the symphonies. In some other parts, like in Europe, the pitch has gone up through the years to a little bit higher. But then if I was tuning it for an orchestra that tunes to a higher pitch, then I would adjust that. But, so after pulling it up, it has done really well as far as the pitch. Now I just have to go in back by ear, just touch up little things that have shifted since I've added so much tension to it. So, and usually at this point, I will check a few things with the action, how the instrument plays, maybe voicing how it sounds, how even things sound. So that's what I'll do right now, and then I'll go back and do the final tuning. So this part of the piano with the keys and everything is called the action, not a grand piano. Most grand pianos, you take off parts of the case, this case, the key block, the key slip, and the action actually pulls out right like a drawer. So I'll show you in a second. So I might listen to how even each note is. And to me, this C, which is like the middle C, sounds like it jumps out a little more than the other notes around it. So I will mark it like with a piece of chalk, and then go through and do any other ones I wanted to do. And then, like I said, the action comes out just like a drawer. And which you can then see the keys and the other parts of the action, including the hammers that actually strike the string, and that's what produces the sound. Starts the string vibrator. So then, what we'll do is do a little what's called voicing, where we use needles to loosen some of the tension on the felt of the hammer to try to see if I can even out the sound between the notes around C. Now it sounds very close to the notes around it. Mark that one. Voice it down a little bit. And then also, when you're tuning for a concert, you can't obviously go through and do a total regulation of the action or extensive work. you can even up certain things. And one of the things we look for is the repetition of the action, so that the pianist can play a single note in succession rapidly. And there's a part on here called the repetition spread that we adjust to facilitate that. So if one's a little slow, a lot of times at this point, when you have time constraint or it's the day before a concert, you basically are trying to make the piano as even as possible with all aspects of voicing and regulation. So the pianist doesn't have to work as hard to play an even line in the pieces that they're playing. Now that A is even with the ones around it. All right, and at this point, I'm going to go out and get some cleaning materials because, like I said, this piano has not been in service for over a year, and so consequently, it has quite a bit of dust in the inside. And then after I finish the final tuning, I'll probably go over the outside case just so it doesn't look, especially since it's going to be videoed, so it looks a little better. So there we go. All right, now since it's pulled up to pitch and it's had a little time to settle as I cleaned it, I'm going to go through and do the final concert tuning, and it'll be good to go. One thing we do when we're tuning what's called an octave, which is same note, only an octave higher. All 12 pitches higher. Is use different intervals to listen to get those in tune. So we use different intervals to listen to the beats that I was talking about before, to just check, see how they have held from the time we raised the pitch. As we get up higher in the scale, we use other intervals to check the octave that I was talking about. So we do it with a major third and a major 10. Listen to that. To check that our octave is pure. There, so now that we've got the pitch raised and the tension evened out, and then I just did the final concert tuning, and then I usually go through and check intervals and check the way the piano sounds. also, after we're finished tuning and other adjustments with the action, we always make sure that the pedals are working correctly. The pedals, so that the piano sustains, and also the pianist can play soft. The left pedal is actually called the unicorda pedal. People call it the soft pedal, but it actually gives it a little bit different sound and also softer. It actually moves the hammers over, the whole action over, as you can see it moving. So instead of hitting all three strings with the full force, it actually moves over and it's just hitting either just two strings or just partially the third string. So we check all those things as well.